Within the context of Realpolitik, China ought to make sure that no harm comes to the members of the Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC), mainly Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Bahrain and Oman. Furthermore, the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party (CCP) ought to make sure that it has a good trade, diplomatic and security partnership with the GCC countries. Any miscalculation in China's relationships with the GCC countries could tip the balance of power and lead to China's failure in penetration in the Middle East. The Chinese government is in a somewhat awkward position in the Gulf region. Primarily, since its number one ally in the region, the Iranian regime, is the adversary of Saudi Arabia and its regional partners, mainly the United Arab Emirate (UAE). After the Bretton Woods Gold standard system fell apart, the U.S. made a deal with Saudi Arabia to set the oil prices in US dollar as the standard currency for trading oil. This positioned the US dollar to become the standard reserve currency of the world. The Saudis were also encouraged to invest a percentage of their oil revenue in the U.S. industries. Moreover, Saudi Arabia is the most significant weapons customer of the U.S. arms industry. This means the security of the Saudi kingdom occupies the strategic planning of the U.S. in the Middle East, especially in the Gulf region. Saudi Arabia's military is trained and equipped by the United States Armed Forces. The United States for decades has been in charge of providing the security for Saudi Arabia and the GCC countries. All such deeply rooted relationships with the United States present a tremendous challenge to the Chinese government when it comes to its attempts to penetrate in the GCC countries. For this reason, China is cautious about how it positions itself within the context of its relations with Saudi Arabia. For example, China in Yemen, when it comes to Houthis, sides with the Saudis and UAE, supports the Houthis government, and opposes the Houthi militants who are the proxies of the Iranian regime. This contradicts China's policy toward Iran that sees the Iranian regime as its regional partner. China also limits its help to Yemen by only sending in humanitarian aid. As long as the U.S. has a military presence in the Middle East and Mediterranean countries, China would have difficulty to enter the security arena in these regions. Although China in stealth seeks the destabilization of the Middle East and Mediterranean regions, yet desires Yemen to have stability. Such a posturing of China intends to please Riyadh and ensure that its relationship with Saudis remains in good standing. China understands the position of the petrodollar and Saudi's important role in maintaining the value of the US dollar, as well as regulating the oil prices in OPEC. The Chinese government realizes that without the alliance with the Saudis, it won't be able to make its currency, the Chinese yuan, the global reserve currency and standard currency for trading oil. The rest of the members of the Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC) follow the lead of Saudi Arabia. For the Chinese to bring the GCC countries on board, and begin to initiate some involvement in the security of the Gulf region, first and foremost, ought to convince the Saudis. The Chinese government ought to convince the Saudis that the presence of China in the Gulf region is in their best interest. China's success in the GCC countries, and infiltration in the security aspects of the Gulf region, will have devastating effects on the value of the US dollar. China's success in the Gulf region will undermine the United States' national security objectives in the Middle East, where almost half of the world's oil exports pass through its choke points.